Oh, hi guys and girls, welcome back to welcome back to the new workshop. This is a job I've been sort of messing with. Seems a bit strange and a bit straight out of left field because honestly I haven't touched this for 7 years, something like that's been in a box. But the bits are here in a tin. I'm packing stuff away again, and I thought, well, let's get this fixed and sorted out, and then if we accomplish that, then we might feel a bit more like putting some time and effort and get a couple of wheels made up, and from there probably the next stage on the bike. This is for my 1931 Gazelle, which is, there's bits of it here everywhere. There's a rusty old frame and a lot of peely chrome paint, chrome plating, and a few bent bits and a lot of small parts. I did manage to get it the correct front hub, which says Gazelle A on the front there. Still got to find a oil cap for the back hub, but I do have more or less the correct back hub, which is a Sturmey Archer K type. This is an early K type, so it's roughly period correct. It should be a KO. This one doesn't really say very much, except that with this gear here instead of hub, this means that it's before 1934. So it's Sturmey Archer patent 3-speed gear from about 1930 to 1934. We should have somewhere the little oil cap here, but I'm not sure where that is. It's here in a box. The later one, which is an AW and is quite a lot different, it's a very similar hub, and this one, it goes straight on the bike, but it's got the Sturmey Archer England AW 1969, 12 months 1969 3-speed hub. This needs enough work to go, a little bit of work to go in the bike too. It's missing, it's also missing the oil cup here, so I should have two of them here somewhere. But this isn't the correct one for the bike, so basically it's also worn out. It's pretty tired. It needs some work, but parts for these are available. Parts for this one isn't. So this week's job has been to repair this, which is an indicator, or the indicator screw out of the hub. It screws into this piece here, which is the selector chain and lever. Basically this pulls around the corner and moves, it screws into there and pulls this all backwards and forwards with a spring on each end. There's basically there's two springs here, which gives this a little bit of leeway on this centerpiece here. Just to give you some idea, this has a pin in here, and I've made a have a look. We've made a dowel pin for this, or a pin here. With a cross hole in it, and that was damaged too. So we've got a pin there I've made up in the milling machine that goes through, basically that goes through there, and then this piece here locates with a spring on each side, and that's what pulls this collar backwards and forwards and selects the 3 speeds, which is basically a long spline and a brake, so that it's very not a good way to really describe that. That spins, but this locates in here. It's another reason this early hub. These were tapered after 1936, I think these were tapered, to give you some sort of an idea how this all goes together. And this has planetary gears in this side, so moving that locates either on this half or both, and it'll either basically direct drive to the chain, which gives you top gear, or it will lock the planet so that you've got the middle gear, or it will drive through the planets to give you the other gear. That's sort of a fairly average sort of a way of describing that, but that's how this works. This has got a oil hole in this side here to oil the clicks here for the freewheel hub, which is on here. That goes on that end. One of these is left-hand thread, and basically there's a dust guard here and an oil groove or a ball bearing groove on this end, like so, and then this other end goes in here. Now that's what we've done, but the tricky thing is this thread, and I've sort of been tearing my hair out with it, and I really didn't know what thread it was until I did a bit more research. This is a cycle spoke thread, 16 gauge cycle spoke thread, is 62 TPI. Until the 40s or 50s, when they were all standardized at 56 TPI. So finding this thread even to roll it on is almost impossible. There's two options. We could make it something else and tap this out and make them fit, which seems a bit of a pain, or we could just single point this, which is what I've done. I'll have a bit of a look at that. I had a 1/16 Whitworth button die, which I thought was very close, but that's 60 TPI and it's not quite the same, so that doesn't really work. And I could have got my thread rolled here for a 16 gauge spoke, but that's 56 now, 56 TPI, so that doesn't work either. But we've managed to achieve this pretty nicely, and we'll have a look and we'll see how we've done it over here on the lathe. You've all seen this homemade thread cutting attachment that I made for the launch. Basically it's got a reversing tumbler here, and we can select forward and reverse there with a reasonable amount of backlash adjustment on this plate that slides up and down, so you shouldn't have to really mess around with that too much. For 62 TPI, this is a metric system, and my lead screw is actually 2mm here. So to get this to operate at 0.41, something like that, which is what the thread pitch translates to, and that there's a tiny bit of error. There's 0.063% error or something, which is 0.03 of a millimeter per 10 turns, something like that. Someone else can do my maths, but that's not enough to worry about, and it does fit properly once I've done the job. But I've set this up with a 20-tooth gear and a 45-tooth gear, and then a 30-tooth gear and a 65-tooth gear. I use the Little Machine Shop website for this, which seems to be pretty good. And so this doesn't really work though if we just run from 20 to 45 to 30 to 65, because this gear here on the bottom touches on this one here. So we had to put an idler in here. I've just found a 70 or 75 or something to put in there, which doesn't affect your change. It just makes it run in the opposite direction, which means you've got to reverse it to give you a left or right hand thread. So I've set that up, and this isn't properly finished here. Ideally this isn't as nice as I'd like. I would very much like a dog clutch or a single place clutch to put this together with a detent, the same as I've done this side. And it's just a bit of messing around to draw it up and then actually make something. And unfortunately you lose another ½ inch here doing it, and I really, honestly, I'm still thinking about that, because we're getting pretty close here anyway. And if we shorten this universal up a bit more, then we haven't got the travel this way. But anyway, that's on, and this is located here. And this still, you see that okay? I think so. There's still 3 wheels on here. So if we pop this clutch in, then it's locked. And basically we can pull the belt over. Now let's have a look. We'll take that tool off. This is something that come in a surprise package from Stefan in Germany. This little tool holder, I believe it's one that he made, and it was surplus to sort of requirements. I've sharpened that to 55 degrees, and I've used the D-bit grinder. So basically, if I chip this, I can set this up again straight away and touch up the long side of it, and without changing the angle. So it's all set up there, ready to go. It's a really good thing to have, is to be able to just touch the tool up and put it back in without actually messing anything up if you've got to. With this job though, if there is an issue, then you've probably bent the job and it's time to start it again. And in full disclaimer, I think I've shortened the bar up about this far, trying to cut threads on it. But if we click that back in place, if we turn this over by hand, and we'll just cut a sort of a thread here. That should give us, and hopefully we haven't got too many bumps there, but that should give us 62 TPI. A loop's probably pretty critical here. Don't know if you can see that. But if you cut too deep, what you're going to find is you're going to chip the tool. So we just run one cut along there like that. Just pulling it over by hand, that's pretty straightforward. If we take a careful note at what we've got here on the cross slide, and we can wind the tool out and wind it back. And if we have a close look at that, you could probably go another cut, but we've got a pretty reasonable thread there, and that's the right. Got some distortion through there. I don't know if you can see that, but we've got a pretty reasonable 62 TPI thread, or very, very close to it. So that's how I did that. Working on the actual part, I actually run a centre in it and made it a little bit longer. and when I got it to thread on, then I've shortened it off to a fairly critical 15-30 seconds of an inch. And then this system here is, this length here is fairly critical too. So what I've done for this end is just Loctited it in here. I've drilled this through and reamed the hole the same size as this piece of 01, and then put it in, and I've run some 680 Loctite on it, so I don't think that's ever going to move. And we've got an indicator screw at the back, so that's that job done. Let's have a bit of a look at what's next for the hub. Now back over here on the bench, what we need is a couple of springs, and according to a chart that I found, the 2 springs that locate one each end here and here. So there's 2 springs on here. There's quite a few springs in it. There's another one there. What I have is the remains of these 2 here, which is about what they should have been, but they're all broken up. Not very big springs, but they should be this long. And I'm going to get these made. I've got a friend that will make them, and shouldn't be any issues with it. He may have something in his scrap box that'll do close enough, and we'll use that. But there's a guy here on the Gold Coast who does specialist springs, so I'll go and see him about these. We're sort of ready to put all this back together then, and get it cleaned up. It's all there other than that, so I'm not even sure if these were the original springs. I think someone's probably put them in there with a couple of little washers, and that might have been some of the reason we had issues. But at some point, that's ready to go back together. So we'll fix that. This hub, the all-weather bike had black hubs, and the rest were chromed. All Sturmey arches, nearly all Sturmey arches were chromed after about 1930. So the problem we've got is that I've actually put new flanges on this at some point, and because most K-type hubs we see here in Australia have 40 holes rather than 36, which is wrong for my wrong for this bike, and wrong for the rims that I managed to get. So what I've done is brazed a couple of new flanges on this, and they're not come up too bad, but to clean these up nice, there's going to be no metal left here, or no weld metal here. I've got reasonable penetration, I think, but there's going to be no weld metal here to give us any strength. So I want to leave them as like this, and painting it black's a bit ordinary. I already had it painted black once, and if you put a thick enough paint on it to make a decent job, then this is all gone, and it's going to scratch up with stone chips and things. So the answer is probably, I've gone and got a tester of graphite black Cerakote, and I think that's what I'm going to do. There's a bit of messing around for this, and this is going to be an ongoing project. As I get my bills paid and things, I will probably get the rest of the gear to do this. But to Cerakote, this will be a fairly nice job, I think, and then that's going to last forever. So that's the plan. Anyway, that's what I've been messing around with. Thanks heaps for your patience while I'm shifting and not feeling particularly productive or particularly artistic about making videos. But we'll get this one uploaded, and just thought everyone might like a look at what we've done here. I should have actually shot this while I was doing it, but I didn't think of really making a video until this morning. So that should be pretty good. Let's edit this and get it uploaded, and I might come down here a bit later on and have a bit of a look for some springs.